Jack here with a quick little video today. What we're looking at is I'm going to be showing you how to make a neck weight. So neck weights are really important for freediving. Some guys use it for spearing as well, but we're primarily looking at freediving activities today. So why exactly do you need a neck weight? The simple thing is about balancing out your weights. In a pool discipline, you're going along, if you have a weight belt on, it's pulling your legs down towards the bottom. You've still got all that buoyancy in your chest, lifting you up. The neck weight is going to balance that out and bring you off nice and level. For things like no fins, this is really important. It's where streamlining and hydrodynamics come really into play. So you want to be making sure you've got that nice level profile going through the water. For depth, you do take a much less lead for a depth dive. However, by wearing a neck weight on depth, you actually make yourself into basically a dart. All of your weight's at the front, and it's going to be pulling you down in a nice vertical profile. It means that it's a lot easier to maintain in a really simple, streamlined position the deeper you go. A little bit of effort trying to adjust and balance out your positioning with your legs. So for today's tutorial, it's really quite simple. I'm just going to show you one of the methods I learned many years ago. It's a really easy neck weight to make, and what it's going to help prevent is any accidental spillages. As neck weights get older, there's a bit more wear and tear that comes into play, and you can start to see little bits of lead starting to get out of these neck weights. So our neck weight that we're making today is a really foolproof method. It's going to help greatly reduce the chances of that happening. There are a few tutorials online you see where they're really quite simple. You might just tie a rope or tape up the end. Those little things, while they're useful, if you're going to be doing a lot of pool diving, you want to make sure you've got as much insurance as possible that it's not going to accidentally spill lead all over the place. Because if you've ever had to clean lead pellets off the bottom of a pool, it's quite an impossible task. So getting started, we just need a few of the basics. So we need weight to begin with. So I've got this, I've got some size 8 lead shot. This is pretty simple, it's just basically for ammunition making. And pretty much with this, it's a really good all-rounder. It's a bit tricky to get this in Australia now, since they stopped producing it inside of Australia. What you can use as an alternative is something called lead pastels. They're quite easy to get out of stage lighting bags. You can buy them online. They're usually about 3-4 kilos a piece, so you can actually get quite easy access to lead pastels. What you want to get is something very small diameter, so you can fit as much as possible in a small space. I see some people wanting to use things like fishing sinkers. They can work okay if you're using small amounts of weight, maybe if you only need 500 to 1 kilogram. But the bigger you go means you need to fit more into those spaces, and the lead sinkers just have too many gaps in between them. So I prefer lead shot as it's a very small ball bearing and it fits together lots in a very small space. I'm also going to need a bit of electrical tape. Let's use simple black electrical tape. Color's up to you, style preferences. I just like to keep mine all one single color. I'm going to need some more instant super glue, just for gluing the ends of this tube shut in different areas. I'm also going to need my little buckle. Now, depending on the size of your tube, you might want to use a bit of a heavier duty one, but for a 2 kilo weight, this one works just fine. You can get these at most hardware stores. I've also got a little bit of sandpaper, a pair of scissors, good old kitchen scales, container, and some bike tube. For these, I use a standard mountain biking tube. You don't need one of those expandable, super stretchy ones. I just got a standard profile one. You can sort of see the general profile of that one there. Simple bike tubes. If you get lucky, if you ask the guy at the bike store nicely, they might have a bunch of old scrap bike tubes around that they'll let you have for free. Just the hole's got punctured in it, they're not going to use it again, so you might as well see if you can get some free bike tubes out of them that way. And also for my preparation area, I'm going to be putting everything over the top here on a tea towel. Since I'm on my bench right here, if I spill any lead shot on this table, it's just going to go bouncing away into the carpet, and then it'll get sucked up into the vacuum cleaner and destroy them much later. And the missus will not like that very much. Hi. So to get started, what we're going to do is we just want to measure up our lead that we need. So I'm starting with just 2 kilograms. That is a good all-rounder weight for most people. Getting started, if you're just wearing a 2mm suit and you've got a beginner getting into it, it's a good little simple weight for starters. If people need a little bit more, you can adjust for that as you find it, but I'll have some ideas and tips on how to test yourself in the descriptions below. So anywho, let's get into it. I'm just going to get my lead, going to get my scales on, make sure it's all balanced out, and we just want Alright, so we have 1.5 kilos of lead here ready to go, and now we're going to start getting our bike tube ready. I'm just going to leave this off here on the tea towel, just in case it spills, it all stays in one place. So I've got my bike tube ready to go. It's just a standard mountain biking tyre, nothing too flash about it. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to measure out a little bit of a section around my neck, figure out how wide I want it. I don't want it to be too tight, so it's basically cutting off the circulation, but I don't want it to be too loose, so it's banging all around the place. So for this one, I'm just going to be placing up around the back, and I just want a little bit of overlap, so I've got some space to work with. Just basically so I can fit my fingers along the inside of it. It doesn't have to be too tight, not too loose either. That's about right. I can basically fit a finger or two just on the inside of my neck there. It's not tight. It's just nice and easy to work with like that. Okay, so keep a mark with my finger to there, and then I'm also going to leave a little bit of extra out off the end there. So I'm just going to take a couple inches extra, just so I don't run out of space to work with. You can always cut that off in the very last bit. So there we have it. Got my neck weight right here, ready to go. So to start with, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to glue up one of these ends. So that way when I start filling with lead, I'm not going to lose it straight away. So you're just going to take a little bit of sandpaper, just rough up around the inside of the tube here. Make it a little bit of a nice surface to apply some super glue to. So I'm just going to close off the inside of the tube. Rough up the surface a little bit. If you don't do this, you'll find that the glue doesn't take too well and the end of the tube might open back up. So once we've got that, I'm just going to take a little bit of super glue. Don't have to be lots, just a little bit of dip on this. We're not making a huge strong connection here, we just need to close up the end of the tube. So I'm just going to make a little bit of a run over this end here. Just a couple of lines. That should do it. I'm just going to pop it over, back over closed. Give it a little bit of a workaround so you get a nice even coating. And just push the close. Just like that. It shouldn't take too long for it to dry and seal up. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to fold it over on itself. This way it closes up the end. Keeps it nice and protected. It's not going to cause any more issues for us in the long run. So I'm just going to fold it over just where you glued on itself like so. Just like that. And then I'm just going to finish it with a little bit of electrical tape. Basically, a couple of little passes of electrical tape. Doesn't have to be a lot, just enough to hold this little tag end in place. Just like that. There we have it, the end of the tube, nicely closed up. That's not going anywhere. Beautiful. So what we're going to do now is we're going to actually make a second layer for this tube. So we're actually going to be making a secondary skin. The reason I do this is it's going to be providing an extra layer of protection, basically making a double wall. So if this inside tube gets broken at all by any of these little lead pellets, it's not going to immediately spill out in a way. It's going to actually hit a second wall of this tube, and it's going to help keep it protected for a much longer period of time. It's also going to help protect the outside of your neck weight, so if you actually hit or knock something straight away, it's not going to pop your neck weight open straight away. So it gives you a bit of a chance to always keep an eye out and check on it. But it also helps prevent just those runaway accidents from happening. So what I'm going to do, I've got some spare scrap bits of bicycle tubing here. I'm just going to get another piece, just a little bit as long as the one which I cut before. So that's beautiful. Cut it just like that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to run this end down through the tube and out the other side. Just like so. Alright, So once you get through to the other end, you'll end up with one end poking out like so. This is going to be our filling end for when we put our lead shot in, and also this other open end now with our sealed end on the inside. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to quickly close this end up here, so we don't have to add any more into this. So I'm just going to close it on up, bit of glue, bit of tape, just repeat the same process, fold it over on itself. So just like before. And just push to close. Give it a little bit of time to set. It shouldn't take too long. Then you're going to fold that end over. If you want to do a bit of extra security on this end, you can also just do a little strip of glue just to help hold that end down just a little bit more. Doesn't need to be much, just enough to hold that end nice and closed like so. And then finish her up, bit of electrical tape just to hold it all down. Alright, doesn't need to be much, just enough to close that end for now. We are going to be adding some more a little bit later. So now that I've closed up my end here, I now just have this nice double walled tube, and it's getting ready time to start filling this tube section from here. We'll just double check our length. So you see where this secondary tube ends, that's where we're going to want this other main tube to finish at. So just do a double check for the measurement. It's a little bit loose on there, so I might just take a little bit extra out of this one. I'm just going to fold back the tube a little bit. Take back a little bit more of this tube. And just give it a double check again, make sure we get our length right. It's still a little bit loose around there. Just take a little bit more off. What's going to happen with this is that we're going to have it perfect. So we've got the tube now, we've got our double end at this end, we've got our closed end at this end. It's just doing the final measurements just there to make sure it's just about right. So when both ends of this are touching, a nice little loose section in the middle. So that's got plenty of slack in there, so once the tube fills up, it's not going to be cutting off any circulation. You do have to account for as well, once I add onto these clips on either side, it's going to be a nice little gap in between that as well. So we add into the clip, have a little bit of a gap underneath for it to hang. So that's perfectly fine, this will fit most neck sizes quite well. You can fine tune it as you keep building them. But for this one, I want it to be a bit of an all-rounder, so it doesn't have to be perfect for my neck, it's got to be sort of a good average for everyone. So, what we're going to do now is we're going to start filling the lead in. Now we want to do this just a little bit at a time. So it's going to take a little bit of process to get it all the way down into the bottom of the tube here. We also want to make sure that we're evenly filling it the whole way up. We've got quite a bit of lead shot to fit in here. So we're just going to take our time, go piece by piece with lead. I'm going to use a little bit of a funnel just to help avoid any extra spillages. I'm just going to go a small amount at a time. So we're just going to put a little bit in. Ease off, work it all the way down to the bottom of the tube. Okay. A little bit more. Fill a bit more down into the tube. Now as it starts to fill up, once you get to about halfway, you might want to fit a bit more into a lower part of the tube here. So what I like to do, it's a really simple way to do it, I simply just blow on the tube, expand it, and it can fall on down into a deeper part of the tube. Really simple. What it does is, it helps any of those loose spaces open up, and then the lead's just going to fall down into those gaps there. If you are fitting into a bit of a tighter tube, or you need to fit a lot more lead in there, some people prefer to get an actual bike pump, get a buddy to help you, and actually pump the tube a little bit wider. Be mindful though, the more pressure you put on that tube, the more it's going to crush back onto that lead, and it means that you might wear through things. So there is a limitation point for how much you can fit in here. Don't go pushing a tube to its absolute limit. You might have to go to a wider diameter one if that's the case. Or, what some people prefer to do if they need more lead, they simply make 2 of these and wear them at the same time. But we're just going to keep filling this up until we get the rest of our lead into the tube. Alright, so I've filled the tube up successfully with the rest of my lead that's needed, and now I'm going to close up the end. So just using my glue, I'm just going to go into here. Just close it up like the other end. Push it in tight. I'm going to take our over sleeve. I'm going to close it up again inside of that. And there you have it. So what we're left with now, we have a nice little lead collar section that's basically built up, double walled in. So if one side breaks, the other side isn't going to immediately start leaking out lead. And if you get any damage, it's not going to immediately start breaking from the other side. So now we're just going to make little straps so we can mount the clips on. So we've got a nice little collar section like so. Now it's time to add our clips. So I'm going to get my buckles. You can figure out which side you want your side to be on. Some buckles have a little bit of a curve to them, so you might want to make sure you get that right on the way up. So now we're going to make some actual straps to attach to our neck weight. So it's pretty simple. You're just going to take your scissors, you're going to cut this out nice and open. And what we're going to be doing, we need to figure out how wide it has to be to get through this strip point right here. So we're going to actually cut this in half, down the middle. Beautiful. Put this off to the side for the moment. Just using our trusty sandpaper again, just going to wrap up whole inside of the strips here. Take our super glue. We're just going to do a little zigzag down the inside so you can get a nice even coverage. I'm just going to fold this over on itself. There we go. Pretty simple. Cut that right there. You might need to add a little bit of glue into the ends just so it's not popping open too often. Just close up the ends like so. The main reason we're folding it over like this is just to provide a bit of extra strength to the straps. The benefit of doing it this way is that if this thing eventually wears and breaks apart, it's not going to take the whole neck weight with it. You can simply just make another one of these, glue it to the outside, and you can keep your neck weight going on. It's a good reusable option. It just basically means that you're not going to lose an entire neck weight if your strap breaks. So just get the other one ready. A little bit of a pop there, that's alright. So we should end up with 2 nice simple strips like so that are going to make our little neck weight straps. Apart from that, these 2 are ready to go. So what we're going to do, I'll take my little straps. I'm just going to check they fit on through. This one should be just fine. Oh, could have made that any better. And the other one, just the same. Through it goes. Just like so. So, we'll bring our weight tube back into the picture. So, we've got our buckle, got our straps ready to go. Now, the beauty of this is, once I get this glued onto the outside, it's not going to go anywhere, but if it does eventually wear and break down, it's not going to destroy the whole neck weight in the process. So, I've got my straps here. All I'm going to be doing is just attaching these with a little bit of super glue, plus a bit of electrical tape to finish it off, just to keep it nice and tidy on the edges there. And then, yeah, we're pretty much done from there. So we're just going to start with this one side here. What I like to do is leave it in the strap, just so I don't get the overlap. You can see, alright, I've got a little level point just there. Got a bit of an even amount on the other side. Beautiful. Alright, it's just a matter of just a bit of super glue, just on the under. There we go, right as rain. While that's drying, I can use the weight of the neck weight itself. Just flip it over onto itself. While that's drying up there, we'll do the other side. Just a little bit of glue. Doesn't need to be loads, just enough to get a good even contact across the whole surface. And down we go like so. It's up to you how much gap you have off the end of your neck weight to your buckle. I like to have mine fairly close, just so I don't have any loose points in between. Some people, try to avoid any potential pinch points, so they might like it a bit wider. But me personally, I'm going to be finishing this off with a bit of electrical tape, pretty much right up to the base of the buckle. That means that the actual straps themselves, there's much less chance of there being anything abrasive knocking up against them, potentially damaging them, meaning I'll have to replace them down the line. But you can see there, these two are now just glued in place. Really simple setup at the end there. And then all I'm going to do is just finish this end, a little bit of electrical tape. Start from the base. We'll just work our way up to the top. And obviously you want to try and make this bit as clean as possible, just for finishing touches. But you can always put more down if you screw it up. Finish that end there. And then all I'm going to do is just repeat the other end, doing the exact same process. So there you have it. There's the finished product. Nice and simple. Give it all a click on up. You can see at the ends there, I've got my nice tape going over the straps on each end there. They're nice and flush with the end of it. Just nice and clean finish up with the tape. And when I throw it on like so, it clips in nice and flush to the size of my shoulders. It's not poking out anywhere. It's a nice even fit as well. There's no bulging patches of lead. And when I load myself up with my arms, it's nice and tucked in out of the way. Not too tight around the neck, not too loose so it's hanging down too low. It's a good little easy fit. If you have any questions about this neck weight build and you want to look into it a little bit more, I'll also have a bit of a description below, just running on the step-by-steps. But yeah, if you have any other variations you want to think about, or you have any questions about any specific parts of this build, just feel free, leave yourself a comment below, and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. But apart from that, that's all for today's lesson, and I'll see you on the next one. Cheers.